Today I am standing before you to conduct a seminar on the topic digestion and absorption. Before starting up with my topic, I would like to ask you all one question. Where do the digestion actually takes place? Does it takes place in the stomach or any system is involved in it or any other glands? Where do digestion actually takes place? Anyone? Do digestion starts from mouth? Actually, you're partially right. Yeah, that's right. Okay, so she said that the digestion starts from the mouth. That's very correct. But the fact is that no digestion takes place in the stomach, and that is the fact. I will explain you in my further slides. Stomach is only responsible for the absorption of food materials, but it does not play any role in the process of digestion. So what is digestion? Digestion is the process in which complex food molecules are converted into simpler form so that they can be absorbed and we can derive energy. So alimentary canal and different digestive glands are responsible for the process of digestion. So here you can see this is the alimentary canal. The alimentary canal starts with the mouth and it ends at the anus. The food enters the mouth, it passes through the esophagus into the stomach, and this C-shaped portion you can see, it is not actually the part of stomach, it is a part of small intestine. Then the food enters the small intestine, then it enters the large intestine. Here you can see this C-shaped portion, this is the sigmoid colon. Then all the waste material is passed into the rectum and it is then ejected out of the body. So layers of alimentary canal. There are basically 4 layers of alimentary canal. First is serosa. Second is muscularis. Third is submucosa. And fourth is mucosa. The serosa is the innermost layer of the alimentary canal and it is made up of epithelial tissues. The muscularis layer is composed of smooth muscles with inner circular and outer longitudinal muscles. Submucosa is composed of loose connective tissues. The mucosa is the outermost layer of the alimentary canal. The mucosa have some finger-like projections called villi. Villi are responsible for the absorption of food when villi are present in the small intestine. The lining of the villi have a dense network of microvilli, which are also responsible for the absorption process. Villi are also filled with a network of blood capillaries. Before moving up to the next topic, that is the digestive gland, I would like to ask you, anyone know that which is the largest gland in the human body? No? No? It's present over here.
Liver.
Yeah, correct. Liver is the largest gland in the human body. So we have 3 glands: salivary gland, liver and pancreas. The salivary gland has 3 pairs: parotid, submandibular sorry. sublingual. The parotid gland is present below our ear. The submandibular gland is present near the jaw, and the sublingual gland is present below the tongue. So, the salivary gland releases the salivary amylase. There is one pigment present in our saliva which acts as an antimicrobial agent. Anyone can guess? Yes. Antimicrobial pigment is present in the saliva. So, what is that? So that is, sorry? Yes, correct. It is the thiocyanate ions. So thiocyanate ions are present in the saliva that act as an antimicrobial agent. Then we have second, liver. So liver is covered by a thin layer, and that layer is called as Glissen's capsule. Liver is the largest gland in the human body, and it weighs up to 1.5 kg. The liver is, here you can see this layer, it is the falciparum ligament. Liver produces the bile, and the bile consists of bilirubin and biliverdin. I will explain this to you in the further slides. Then we have pancreas. Pancreas secrete true digestive juices. It also secretes hormones, enzymes, and as I told you, digestive juices. So it secretes the true digestive juices. So hormones of pancreas are glucagon and insulin. Enzymes are lipase, amylase, and many more. The digestive juices are trypsinogen, chymotrypsinogen, proelastase, procarboxy peptidase, chymotrypsin, proelastase, and okay. So the chymotrypsinogen is converted into trypsin. So this trypsin by the enzyme enterokinase. Proelastase are converted into elastase again by the trypsin. Procarboxypeptidase are converted into carboxypeptidase again by the trypsin. So now we'll start with the mechanism of digestion. So as I told you that the digestion starts from the mouth. So teeth, tongue and saliva present in the mouth are responsible for the digestion of food. Here you can see the structure of teeth. So what is the role of teeth in the digestion? Actually the teeth helps in the mastication of food. And the dental formula is 2 1 2 3 by 2 1 2 3. The dental formula, this is for the upper jaw and this is for the lower jaw. Though this is for the upper jaw, but the dental formula is obtained from the half of the jaw, where this presents incisors, one canine, premolars and molars. Here you can see this is the half jaw. So we have 2 incisors, 1 canine, 2 premolars and 3 molars. Then we have tongue. Tongue is a muscular organ that helps to mix the food with the saliva. There are small projections present on the tongue that are called papillae that bears the taste buds. Then we have saliva. Saliva contains salivary amylase. Which helps to convert starch into maltose and alpha-adductions. Almost 30% starch are digested in the mouth itself. Then, after all this process is done in the mouth, the food finally passes through the esophagus into the stomach. So, this is the esophagus. The food enters the stomach. The stomach is divided into 3 parts: fundus, cardiac, and pyloric. Is this a part of stomach? So then it's what? This is not the part of stomach, it is the part of small intestine which is called as duodenum. So as I told you earlier that stomach does not play any role in the process of digestion. The stomach only mixes the food with the gastric juices through the churning movement. The movement through which the food is mixed with the gastric juices is called as a churning movement. Now gastric glands are present in the stomach. So we have 3 types of gastric glands, gastric cells actually. So they are mucous neck cell, then we have parietal cells and peptic cells. Mucous neck cell secretes mucus, parietal cells secrete HCl, intrinsic factors. What is the role of HCl intrinsic factors? So it is used to digest vitamin B12. Then we have peptic cell, it secretes pepsinogen. It is an enzyme. So churning movement I already explained you. It's just the movement of the stomach through which food is mixed up with the digestive juices of the gastric glands. The digestive juices of gastric glands are HCl. So pepsinogen is converted into pepsine by HCl. Now this pepsine converts proteins into proteoses and peptones. Then casein is converted into paracasein by a pigment renin. Renin is a digestive enzyme that is responsible for the digestion of milk protein in the infants. Now, when all all this process is over in the stomach, the food finally enters the small intestine. Small intestine is the major organ responsible for the digestion. The maximum digestion and absorption is done in the small intestine. So we have three. This is the duodenum part of the small intestine. Then this is the J-shaped jejunum. It looks like a J shape, hence it is named as jejunum. And this is the heavily coiled structure of the small intestine, that is the ileum. Now I will draw here a diagram of ducts. This is the liver. Liver is connected with hepatopancreatic duct. Hepatic duct. The hepatic duct is connected to the gallbladder with the cystic duct. This duct is further connected to the pancreatic duct and the hepatic duct. Here pancreas are present. This is the pancreatic duct, and this hepatic duct is connected to the pancreatic duct. And here a sphincter is present. It is called a sphincter of Oddi. And this duct is connected to the duodenum part of the small intestine. So, what are ducts? Ducts are nothing but they are just the tubular shaped organs that are responsible for carrying the secretions to the different parts of our body. So, liver secretes the bile. Bile is passed to the hepatic duct. Then this is the gallbladder where bile is stored. This is the bile duct, which carries the bile, and this is the pancreas which secrete pancreatic juices. So, and this duct is connected to the hepatic duct as well as the pancreatic duct. Hence, it is called as hepatopancreatic duct, which is connected to the small intestine. So, here with I hope you got that here hepatopancreatic duct is connected. So the secretions of the hepatopancreatic duct carry bile pigment as well as the intestinal juices, that are the pancreatic juices. So they enter the duodenum part of the small intestine. So I explained you the function of the pancreatic juices in previous slides. That is, chymotrypsinogen is converted into trypsin, proelastase into elastase, and procarboxypeptidase into carboxypeptidase. So then we have bile. So these are pancreatic juices. So we are done with the pancreatic juices, and we are having here bile. So bile is responsible for the emulsification of fats. What is the emulsification means? Yeah, correct. So emulsification is breaking down of large molecules of fats into the small molecules, and this small molecules of fat is called micelles. So bile contains the pigment bilirubin and biliverdin. Then we are having intestinal juices. The intestinal juices contain chymotrypsinogen, trypsinogen, and proelastase. Now, after the food is broke down into the simpler substances, the absorption also is done into the small intestine itself. But I will explain you it in the next slide. Then the food enters into the large intestine. This is the large intestine. Here you can see this white color portion. It is nothing but colon. So this is the ascending colon. This is transverse colon, and this is the descending colon. Here you can see this C-shaped colon. It is the sigmoid colon. This is rectum. Then large intestine also do not have any major role in the process of digestion. It only absorbs the water and minerals, and that too very few minerals and water, because the food is already absorbed into the small intestine. So yeah, I'm done with the process of digestion. Digestion finally completes in the small intestine. So now, once the food is digested, it also need to be absorbed. So it ends in the small intestine, where the food finally enters the small intestine. Then the food contains food also contains some amount of fats. So fats are broken down by the bile pigment into small molecules. Yes, then after it enters the large intestine. Now we are done with the fats, but there are other enzymes, other proteins and carbohydrates also that are needed to be digested into the small intestine itself. So they are digested by the enzymes such as trypsin, chymotrypsin, procarboxypeptidase, and many other enzymes are there. So once the food is digested, it is also absorbed in the small intestine by the villi. I explained it in the previous slides. The microvilli and the villi are present in the small intestine. So it absorbs the end product of means we cannot say the end product. After the food is broken down into simpler substances, it is absorbed by the villi and the microvilli. After that, they are passed into the large intestine. So absorption is the process by which end product of digestion pass through the intestinal mucosa into the blood or the lymph. So the end product means when the food is digested, the remaining material, so the exact material that we need after the digestion is passed into the blood or the lymph. So there are three types of absorption: felicitated, active, and passive. Now fats. How fats are absorbed? Fats are sorry sir. Pancreas. So pancreas, I will show you. This is the pancreas. So this is the stomach, and this is the duodenum part of so here you can see this is the pancreas. Now this is the pancreatic duct present in the pancreas. That duct is connected with the duodenum part of small intestine. This is the duodenum. So see, this is the duodenum. Here pancreas are present. This is the pancreatic duct which is connected to the duodenum. So fats are insoluble substances, so they cannot be directly absorbed into the blood. So first the fats are broken down into the simple molecules, then they are passed into the small intestine where villi and microvilli absorb them, and after absorption the secretions are passed into the lymph and the blood vessels. Then absorption in different parts in the mouth. mucus present in the mouth, mucus present. Many of the drugs that come in contact with the mucus of the mouth and the part below the tongue, their blood capillaries are present, so many of the drugs are absorbed there. Then in stomach, alcohol, simple sugar, and simple sugar and water is absorbed in the stomach. The small intestine, maximum absorption is done in the small intestine, where glucose, fructose, amino acids are absorbed. In the large intestine, water and minerals are absorbed. Then we have the disorders, that is jaundice, vomiting, diarrhea, constipation, indigestion, marasmus, and kwashiorkor. So jaundice. Jaundice is caused due to the bilirubin and the biliverdin pigment, which is secreted by the liver. If this pigment is secreted in an excess amount, so it causes the jaundice. Now, what are the symptoms of jaundice? Jaundice, here you can say this is a normal human being and this is a human being who is suffering from jaundice. So jaundice results in the yellowing of the skin. It starts with the yellowing of eye and then it covers the other parts of the body. Then we are having vomiting. What is vomiting? Is nothing, it is just the ejection of the stomach content from the mouth. Then we have diarrhea. Due to the abnormal bowel movement in the small intestine, liquefied feces are discharged, that is called as diarrhea. Constipation, this is again due to the abnormal bowel movement, the feces are not discharged out of the body. Then we have indigestion. Indigestion is nothing but it is caused due to when the process of digestion does not take place properly and we have a feeling of fullness. Then we have marasmus and kwashiorkor. These are very similar diseases. Only the difference between marasmus and kwashiorkor is the swelling of some part is seen in the kwashiorkor and the thinning of the parts is seen in the kwashiorkor. This is marasmus and this is kwashiorkor. So marasmus and kwashiorkor are generally seen in the children's. Marasmus and kwashiorkor is caused due to the deficiency of proteins, which is sorry sir. Yeah, malnutrition. That is it is caused due to the replacement of mother's milk before 1 year of the children's age. So here I'm done with my seminar. Thank you. I would like to thank Rohit sir for giving me this great opportunity to present myself. I will also like to thank respected guests for giving their precious time and all my dear fellows for giving for listening to me with peace and silence. Thank you, sir. True digestive juices means, see, they convert the complex molecules in the simple substances. There are many other enzymes also, such as I told you salivary amylase that convert the starch into alpha additions and what we say maltose and alpha additions. But the digestion does not completely takes place through the salivary amylase. They are still remain to be digested. But pancreatic juice are the juices that completely digest the food. So therefore they are called as true digestive juices.